Well, Lucas, I'm glad you could join for this conversation. I'm excited to glean from your learning. I always feel like as I get to do these interviews, it feels like free consulting that I get to experience. But also it's great. It's blessing to our community. So we're going to be talking about B2B sales for SaaS startups and SaaS companies. And so yeah, Lucas, will you introduce yourself? Kind of tell us a little bit about your experience in this space.
Yeah, thank you, David. So yeah, my name is Lucas Muniz, and I currently have my own business. It's called Sales Network LLC, and the business is a consulting for SaaS companies who want to scale their sales. And doesn't matter, no matter what growth stage the startup is at. We basically find out exactly where you are, what the best next steps are going to be, and even if it relates to, let's say, if you need some help that's not specifically for sales, we partner up with whoever is needed the most. Let's say a marketing agency, if that's the case, or just guide you to the next step if we can help. But usually, there's always something sales related that needs to get done, before the company reaches that next stage. So yeah, I've been working in sales for the last 20 plus years. I used to work even, when I was a teenager with my dad, and worked in different industries, a myriad different industries. Worked in tech long time ago. The times of, not sure if anyone is here familiar with Boral and Cool Gear. That's when I was introduced to tech sales, and then I worked in different industries and came back. So I chose software as a service, B2B, just because I noticed that a huge amount of, let's say, majority of cases, the processes can be replicated. And even with all the personalization, even all with the nuances of each case, at least, let's say, the rules that I talk with, they usually apply pretty well across, across all the different SaaS products. So yeah, I'm here matching challenges with tech solutions.
No, I love that, Lucas. And I appreciate that. Yeah, like you calling out even that, yeah, well, each of our businesses we have like nuances and unique things about them, but those same principles, just like in our framework, the same principles of growth apply at different stages. Same thing you're saying. It's like, hey, you may be offering a different product or a different promise, but the process, the principles of sales, and especially these B2B SaaS sales, they apply broadly. And so you're helping people see through all of the chaos and clutter and go, hey, these are the things that you need to double down on. This is how we're going to help you get there. And that clarity is so valuable. So I'm excited. Let's just kind of dive in to talk through some of these stages here. So that scalability stage is where you're laying the groundwork to serve even more customers and to reach market saturation. So you're trying to preserve your quality while also expanding your reach. There's a lot of things that go in there as you're trying to reach market domination. So that's where scalability really, similar to how adoption ends when you hit that economic milestone, scalability ends whenever you hit whatever that market domination metric that you set to go, hey, this is what saturation is going to look like. And let's get that first taste of that. And then again, saturation is like, okay, how do we manage and maintain that? So in that scalability where you're kind of going, hey, we have something that works, let's grow it to really hit market domination. And that market, that can be in a lot of different ways. But what are some of the insights that someone needs to be thinking about in B2B SaaS sales in that scalability stage?
This stage is so fun because at this point you are established, you already have a strong brand, and you already have, some good following when it comes to customers, right? Adoption and all of that. So at this stage, it's all about how do we automate our sales process, how we expand into new markets, how do we build strategic partnerships. Like let's widen our radius, right? Like very exciting. And at this point on the scalability, you're probably, backed by some fund, or you already have like some good revenue coming in. So it's fun because at the very beginning, there are sometimes, depending on how the funding worked, there are a lot of experimentations that you couldn't do at the very beginning, depending on the, as I said, on the budget. But usually, when it comes to this stage scalability, we are always talking about companies that has some funding that they can, use the best, let's say, sales technology, when they can actually do, basically, um, do all their experiments when it comes to, okay, let's get to as many people as possible. Let's get to other markets. And of course, there are some things that you got to be really careful at that stage because, as I said, like I said, it's fun because you have funds at this point, usually, and you can focus on the expansion. It's so cool. But you got to make sure that you know how the expansion, let's say, you got to establish the right priorities, because sometimes some markets are not that worth to go full on, and the return on investment of some markets are not as great as other ones. So make sure that you do your due diligence when it comes to researching really well about those markets as much as you can, of course, because of course you gotta conquer first the territories that you get the most dollar out. So I see that, for many technology, for many SaaS companies, looks like the US, North America is a more profitable market, and sometimes like Europe and Australia, and depends on the software, but in general, so the Eurozone. So those are markets that you usually go first by the ticket value, by the amount of your return on investment, basically, you know. But hey, now it's time to see what the next ones are. So you start seeing, okay, with the emerging markets, that's pretty exciting as well. And how much effort we're going to put into it, because sometimes the emerging markets are even better. And sometimes, what you're trying to charge, the minimum pricing, it might not go way further in certain market, because sometimes because of the currency, some countries' currencies are so lower than the dollar. Then for someone to afford a software like yours, they got to be a huge company. So they got to have a budget that's not normal sometimes. So those are the questions that you should ask. Is basically how, what markets, like what who are going to be the priority, and who, by who I mean the countries, right, the regions. And once that you start having this notion of, oh, I think this one here will have a more return investment, this other one here, okay, so then how? Because you can do that in so many ways. Sometimes scalability is in different markets. It doesn't have to be the same way that you did in your the country that founded the company. Because sometimes here in US, it makes sense for you to have a huge sales team and pay, six-figure salaries for the sales team. But if we're talking about a country that the return on investment is lower, that the currency doesn't help them much, and only huge companies can afford your product. Okay, so what can I do so I don't have to invest so much on sales and teams and all that, but I can already get some penetration. I can already, penetrate some markets, and sometimes it's through channel partners. Sometimes you can already, okay, offering a percentage of my sales sometimes can be can be more profitable than making huge investments in sales teams and finding the right people with the right technical knowledge and capacity. So yeah, but anyway, at the scalability, you got to consider everything because it's so exciting.
Yeah.
You have channel partnerships, so you have to focus on channels management, international expansion, the
Mhm.
sales operations. Oh, now what we talked about in sustainability in terms of you're already thinking about the softwares, right? The right this structure in general, not only software, but when it comes to sales, sales operations and technology, really makes a huge difference because you want to create everything that's repeatable, a process that's very repeatable, and also that you can track all the metrics, that you can have the right, you know, um, boards that you can see everything that's
Mhm.
happening. So at this stage, scalability to make sure that you're reacting to things that you know what's going on. You know, I would say you should aim for the best technology, sales technology that you can see everything that's happening. You have more sales intel, so this way you can react not only if you're wasting money somewhere, but also if you know, hey, this market is reacting really well, I think we should
Mhm.
focus on this one. Buyer intent, so many things that sales
Yeah.
technology can help you with.
Mhm.
So coming just back to what the focus, right, should be, I would say sales technology, channel partnerships,
Mhm.
international expansion.
Yeah, no, there's that. Yeah, we covering a lot. We're going fast in here. I like it, Lucas. Um, I think even especially I love though how you called out um really taking a like intentional and honest look at the ROI, because I do think in the scalability stage there are some of the dangers that we have at the beginning, that just because something is cool and exciting doesn't mean it's worth pursuing. And there
Exactly.
may be, kind of to your point, it's like, okay, what's the potential in that new market, but also what's going to be the cost of entry here and the cost to play here. Like, how much is it going to cost us? You think you talked about international markets, which is one way to kind of segment it. But yeah, if you look at like, hey, if everything we've done is in this language and now we're going to jump to another language, well, both from our like product standpoint, but also from our sales and our customer success, like that could be a large, like that could be a big lift there,
Yeah.
to be able to do that. Now it might be worth it, but if you go, hey, there's actually a couple other international markets that speak the same language. Hey, what's the ROI there? Or maybe it's not even expanding necessarily to a new market, but to go, hey, we're number three in our current market. How do we get to number one? But again, like you're saying, that you've got to ask that question of like, why? Like, is it worth it? Because it feels really good to be number one. We all love that idea. But sometimes you're way less profitable at
Yeah.
number one. And you got to go, okay, does that make sense? Like, sure, we got the stamp of being number one, but what we have to do to accommodate that actually is not as good of a business, which seems counterintuitive, but happens in a lot of spaces. So I love that you called out that aspect, that there's a lot of sales strategies. And like you said, you talked about channel partners, you talked about tech, so that we can have those repeatable processes and even scalable processes. I mean, we kind of repeatable processes was a lot in that sustainability stage, but now here it's really like, okay, how do we 100x, 1000x something and not have to 1000x the input,
Yeah.
and so that's where AI comes in. I think a lot of, like you talked about, measuring customer intent, and it's like, okay, how many of these things can we automate really here so that we can deliver the same value at scale. Well, I just want to say thank you for, for spending this time and really blessing our community with your expertise. And I'm glad you're with us on the platform so people can come and find you if they want more, and really get to leverage your expertise. So I appreciate it.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to doing more of these type of things together in the future.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Also, we passed the time quite a bit.
Yep.
Appreciate the conversation, and thank you as well for being a great host and for making my messages a little concise, a little more concise.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
No, I love it. That's awesome.